Big news, Australia. At precisely 4 o'clock, an important announcement was made concerning the future leadership that will affect our lives for at least the next 3 years. But more on Doctor Who tomorrow, because yesterday at 4 o'clock, Prime Minister Kevin Rudd announced the election. Just 32 days from now, citizens of this fine country will go to the polls and make the difficult but all-important decision: sausage sizzle or steak sandwich. 3 years ago, I voted sausage because I believed in its message of deliciousness and cooperation with folded bread. But now at last we have a date for the federal election, September 7. So get out your diaries and cancel your Pakistani Air Force Day celebrations, because something bigger just popped up.
This afternoon I visited the Governor-General, and Her Excellency has accepted my advice an election be held on Saturday the 7th of September.
Conversely, Kevin Rudd did not accept the Governor-General's advice that pink wasn't really his power colour. Still, with the election now officially on, we've got blanket coverage here at The Roast: media analysis, leadership profiles and strategy. But first, Mark Humphries was there for yesterday's announcement, and he filed this report from Parliament.
In the words of a man who assures you he's wearing a condom, it's on. Like the Queen and her birthday, Kevin Rudd has picked a date that suits him. And after previously characterising himself as the glasses-wearing kid in the library, Rudd announced,
I know I enter this election as the underdog.
Begging the question, what dog is on top of the Prime Minister? Because if the Prime Minister isn't already top dog, then our democracy is fundamentally flawed. Rudd called on the Australian people to get behind his campaign and
maybe even send us a $10 donation.
To solve the $30 billion budget deficit? You wish. No, to fund his re-election campaign. Though when someone asks you for money, how can you be sure they're not just going to spend it on drugs? Only time will tell. But what is this election about? Well, according to Rudd,
this election will be about who the Australian people trust.
A disappointing statement for Tony Abbott, who thought he had dibs on that back when Julia Gillard announced the election in January.
This election will be about trust.
So the September 7 election is about trust, the September 14 election was going to be about trust, and in case you're wondering what the 2004 election was about,
this election, ladies and gentlemen, will be about trust.
And since we just don't know who to trust to tell us that this election is about trust, Abbott's had to find something else for this election to be about.
It's really about who is more fair income.
And according to Abbott, fair dinkum is measured in units of things the coalition has done that Labor hasn't. And if nothing else, Tony Abbott has promised
build a country where no one ever feels like a stranger.
So if you could all turn to the person on your left and tell them a little about yourself. Either that or nude up. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
And while Abbott has reduced the choice to fair dinkumness, Rudd's not so keen on simplification.
3-word slogans don't solve complex problems. They never have, and they never will.
Kevin Rudd there criticising the coalition's use of 3-word slogans as part of the Labor Party's new slogan,
A new way.
A new way. Although maybe Rudd's not counting the And now we do have an election, but it seems also a contest, with the latest news poll figures showing the gap has narrowed to just 4 points, compared to the 14 percentage point gap under Ms Gillard. And for more on that, Rachel Corbett joins us via satellite. Rachel, what is the significance of Rudd choosing September 7th for this election?
Well, it's not September 14, Tom. That election date represented the final smudge of Julia that was left on the Labor Party. Kevin Rudd has been on a spring clean since the moment he took over the leadership, and this is really just the final squirt of political Febreze to really scrub away her memory.
OK, but surely Ms Gillard's legacy will live on within the party. I mean, what about the legislation she introduced?
Oh, Rudd's taken care of that, Tom. Plus, he scrapped the carbon tax, renamed the Gonski reform, changed our asylum seeker policy and turfed the royal baby's knitted kangaroo. The last thing to go was Gillard's chosen election date. Now, September 7th will go down in history as the day Kevin Rudd ran for re-election as Prime Minister of Australia, and September 14th will go down in history as a week after that week.
OK, so if you had to sum up the difference between these two election days?
Well, September the 14th may be slightly warmer than September the 7th, or slightly cooler, depending on local weather conditions. Either way, Gillard will remember September 7th as the day Rudd chose to rub in her face the fact that he was Prime Minister by not holding the election on the day that she wanted to rub in his face that she was Prime Minister. Tom.
Thank you, Rachel. Now, the decision to announce the election yesterday came as a bit of a surprise to some people because it hadn't been the greatest week for the PM. Traditionally, Prime Ministers want to start off their campaigns on the front foot, backed by a recent success. And our reporter Nick Richardson believes there would have been far better times for Rudd to announce it. Nick?
Oh, you bet I do, Tom. What was wrong with after the Papua New Guinea asylum seeker announcement on July 19th? I mean, Rudd makes a big decision on a problem that's plagued Australia for a decade. The decision was strong, tough, and possibly illegal. The Australian public would have gone into the election viewing Kevin Rudd like this.
Oh, he looks good.
Yeah, he should. He's Prime Minister Pacific Rim, protecting us from the aliens in the ocean. Or what about announcing on the 22nd of July, the day his new leadership reforms pass caucus? He slams shut the revolving door of leadership, makes himself appear to be the saviour of the Labor Party, and protects his position as Labor leader until the year 3000, or death, whichever comes first. The Australian public would have gone into the election viewing Kevin Rudd like this. That's Prime Minister Jesus. But no, Rudd had to announce the election on Sunday.
Okay, so he was planning to announce based on recent successes like getting Victoria to agree to the Gonski reforms and WA to sign up to NDIS.
Yes, but I think most people will probably remember Friday, when Treasurer Chris Bowen told us that growth's gone down, unemployment's gone up, and the deficit's at $30 billion, which means now, when the Australian public go into this election, they'll be viewing Kevin Rudd like this.
Who's that?
That's Kevin Rudd.
Do you mean Prime Minister Kevin Rudd?
Yeah, not if he doesn't fix that deficit.
All right, thank you, Nick. Well, right time or not, the election has been announced, and that means the government enters caretaker mode, a time when Canberra completely slows down, more than usual. There are no policy announcements, no major appointments. Basically, there's not a whole lot of work to do. It's pens down, feet up, drink on. So let's check into Parliament House now and see what's going on.
Hey, watch this.
Magic time! Hey! Do it!
Okay, wait, watch this.
She's a witch!
And now that the race is officially on, the leaders of both major parties have found a new way to disagree by disagreeing on the number of times they should disagree face to face in live televised debates. Tony Abbott wants 3, Kevin Rudd wants a debate every week until the vote. And for more on that, Jazz Twemlow joins us from his living room. Jazz, you like?
Oh, the networks aren't going to like this. You can't just impose your own weekly TV show on Australia by announcing an election, Tom. How about writing a script?
Yeah, well, it's not exactly a show, Jazz. I mean, these debates might inform people's election decisions.
By ruining my televisual enjoyment? There are already way too many TV shows where I have to vote someone in, evict someone, elect my favourite pastry, and it'll change the scheduling. This is a great opportunity for broadcasters to steal viewers. You could mop up all the ratings if, while another channel is showing that debate, you broadcast someone crying into their failed cake. To compete and get people to tune in to two men with the same policies, somehow disagreeing with each other, channels are going to have to work on their promos.
Live on ABC, Tony Abbott debates Kevin Rudd in the lead up to the September 7 federal election. Full debate coverage only on ABC News 24.
If you thought Kevin Rudd had the X Factor and/or strongest policies tonight, call 1-800-7-KEVIN. Or if you want to send Kevin packing, call 1-800-13-TONY. All that and more on Australia's next top Prime Minister.
Two men stand to fight. Words, not physical violence. Trees do not whisper.
The debate on SBS. Oh, that SBS debate looks a bit weird. It's probably just working on a level I don't understand. Back to you, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Jazz. And that's it for our election announcement coverage. I still can't believe they got Werner Herzog to narrate the SBS commercial. They don't narrate anything.
The roast writers were born outside our reality in a cave of the mind. The executive producers are a nightmare born out of the most visceral bog of human extinction. What is a hollow bear? The hollow bear is full of crystallized violence. Good night.